guys have a chance to look in beforehand.
Okay. Does anybody have any amendments to the meeting minutes? Nope.
Oh.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
So moved.
Everybody in favor of approving the March 27th meeting minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Meetings minutes passed, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so the next agenda item, changes to the agenda. Grant, future project. The only thing that I can add is just a little small thing, is that recruitment little note, letter, whatever it is. Yeah, I think that was just kind of making sure everybody was okay with how that is, or we can make edits to it, just so that we have some tools to recruit new members with. Have either of you received any applications in the last month?
Dawn was the last application
Okay,
that we
alright.
received, I believe.
I talked to somebody, about 4 days ago or so, and he asked about, he was a cop from Gresham, I think, and he lives over in Arletha or somewhere like that.
Not yet.
Yeah, Jeff or something, I think his name was, anyway, okay. Okay, so that's the only agenda addition, is the recruitment poster materials.
Okay.
Okay. So the new business, getting started on the Parks Master Plan RFP discussion. We had, Kelly did a great job of kind of putting together a draft starting point of what we had. That was kind of the big picture stuff. The thing that, when I looked through it, I just kind of wanted, what I thought was important was to have a whole lot more details about what it is we want and deliverables. Because if you don't have that detail, you get what you get. So what I did, and so looking at that spreadsheet, there's two documents here. There's the spreadsheet and there's the RFP document itself. And the spreadsheet is just kind of the outline of what's in this 13-page RFP. But what this RFP does is it kind of identifies three main phases that involve us, the public, staff, and all that. The first phase is project initiation, and I'm going off and so you can kind of track along too, because what I did was, if you look on, starting on the page 4 of 13, is kind of where these phases start. You've got project initiation, and under that you've got tasks. Task 1.1 is document and data review, and there's no deliverables in there. But the description of what's under all that and what the city's going to do is in this longer document. We're going to provide them with a copy of a lot of different plans and, aerial photos and things like that, just to kind of get them up to speed. So that's task 1.1. 1.2 is a kickoff meeting, and let me back up. This is a process that the city of Newport used. They have gotten their draft done, draft Parks and Trails Master Plan, and they're working, they're getting ready to issue their final one in the end of May. So this is a very timely and comparable process, and it seemed like they had a lot of really good public involvement and a lot of details on what it is they wanted. And when I talked to her extensively, and she felt pretty good about the process they had. So number 1.2 is the site kickoff meeting and reconnaissance and scope confirmation, and that's kind of a back and forth negotiation that Kelly or whoever staff is going to be leading it will have with the consultants. And the deliverables will be a memo documenting the outcomes and the final scope of work. So, and And let me also back up, any of this that you think is too much, we don't have enough, we wanna be, like, one thing I realized as soon as I printed it off was that we should also include in here to kind of just refine our site design guidelines for, we kind of have those in the Sandy River plan, the Cascade, the Cascade style stuff, the little kiosks and picnic tables and benches. We kind of have a Sandy Park style. That's kind of what this new little gazebo thingy used. And so just kind of refining that, that's probably something that we should kind of make sure it wasn't in our original plan, 97, it was in our Sandy River management plan, I think, master plan. And so we just want to make sure and get that incorporated into the overall plan. So that's one little addition for the notes, Kelly, just to, and I'll add that in here,
Okay.
to do, site design guidelines. So, and then 1.2 is, they're gonna come out and take photographs of that. And I thought, on this, if we want, if they come in with a huge bid, there's probably some things that we could do ourselves. And I thought, we could go, we have pictures of all the parks and we could probably do that. And I thought, so that's one thing that we could kind of offer up is us, and we have done some of this stuff already. We either can offer it up, but I also was like, well, they might want to take their own pictures. What's special to them? So, there's kind of pros and cons, but that's kind of your backup ace in the hole if you need to start peeling items off of here on the deliverables to get the price down. So task number 1.3 is the interviews, small group discussions, and initial assessments. And that's where they'll be having interviews with the kind of the leaders in the group, community leaders, organizations, affiliates, the sports groups, the community garden people, or, all the different groups that are out there. And they'll kind of document that effort with a memo summarizing the results of the key stakeholders. The 1.4 is communications and outreach strategy. And this is another one where, this one? Yeah. This is one where, I think it's really important to, outreach to those underserved groups out there. We've got some people that have talked to us in the past about, they've got kids with disabilities and they can't use some of the playground equipment. And so, that's kind of those underserved folks out there. We've got these playgrounds where, they're great for the tots, but nothing for the 6 to 12-year-olds. So, what groups are not being served? The Latino community, is that, so kind of reaching out to them. And this is another one where, it's important, but if we have to cut something, we could also assume that we're going to involve those people as part of the overall process and not necessarily have to have a separate document highlighting that. So that's kind of a draft, and that's, possible delete if you want. Advisory committee meetings, and that's where they're gonna come meet with us as the Parks and Trails Board. That's task 1.5. And that's where they'll kind of give us the scope of what they're doing, what's been agreed to, and a schedule. They'll do some interviews and outreach discussion and go over their communications and outreach strategy. And they'll also go over the park and recreation inventory and level of service analysis discussion. Let me again interject with, a lot of these tasks kind of overlap. It's like a big Venn diagram. This one starts and then, this one starts, but this one's still going on. And so they're, they are identified as separate tasks, but there's overlap. So the deliverables are the Parks and Trails Advisory Committee meeting agenda and meeting materials for our meeting, and then attendance at that meeting and participation. So that's kind of the kickoff of the whole our Parks and Trails Master Plan. It kind of sets the stage for the next phase, and that's plan development. And so that's where they're going to look at that level of service analysis. And to kind of refresh your memory, take Knollwood Park. Remember, Knollwood Park it's a 5-acre park. It's the neighborhood park. However, it's just, it's a tot lot. It's got some play space along the creek. It's got a little bit of a trail through there. So do you count the whole, do you count that as a 5-acre park? Or do you count that as a half-acre park and the rest is just forested open space? And that kind of assessment is one of the things that goes into a level of service study. The other thing is, like, we don't have any ball fields, or we have the sports ball fields at the school. And so, what's our agreement with the schools? Do they let us use them? What's the policies? How many do we need? Do we have enough? Probably not. We knew that in 1997 on that master plan, and we haven't built any since then, so I'm pretty sure we still are in the hole on that one. So that's where we're going to, that's that level of service. What's the level of service we have for all these different categories for needs? And they look at all the different things we have, the private health clubs and the Mount Hood RV Village and, the county parks around us. They look at all those things and kind of identify what's out there and then what do we have to offer. So what that deliverable for 2.1 will be is the map showing the existing and undeveloped parks and trails and other important features, including natural and cultural resources. They'll have a text summary, including acreage and miles of the city parks and rec inventory, including supplemental images. There's something else on there. I thought that might also have included, yeah, it's up above, talking about the Barlow Road, because I know that was something that I think one of the city council members had mentioned they wanted to incorporate. 2.2 is that level of service analysis, and that's where they kind of gather, what's our existing inventory out there and what's our demographics, population growth, things like that. What of those inventoried facilities are ADA accessible, things like that. So, and this is where I kind of included that whole bit about, on these parks, how much of the park is actually a developed park and how much should we not count as developed park and count it into the category. Because if you kind of just look at the acres of our parks, we got 140 acres in Sandy River, we don't need any more parks, right? Well, not exactly. We don't have any, you can't put ball fields down there, so. Deliverables is a level of service analysis, including a memo summarizing area demographics, population growth, future park and recreational need projections. 2.3 is the initial public workshop and online open house. And this is where it really gets fun with them working with, I'm going to assume that like that first phase was also kind of meeting with the city council. That's where, meeting with the planning commission and the city council in 1.3, that's where, that's back in 1.3, that's kind of where they're going to get some probably marching orders and stuff from the city council, Lori, I would assume. Does that seem right?
I'm not sure when that's supposed to occur.
Well, I mean, it's task 1.3, but, when it, that'll be kind of, just to be able to kind of have you all set the stage
Sure.
and the scope of, make sure they're all, that task 1.3 is, there's 10 interviews, and I assume some of those interviews are going to be the planning commission and the city council especially.
Sure. Can, back up for,
Okay.
As far as the tasks and the order of the tasks,
Mhm.
have these been predetermined?
Nope, nope,
Okay.
this is all totally draft.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, totally
I
draft.
mean, we just got this a few minutes ago.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, it's totally
I-
just hot off the presses, just draft, very, edit it, change it, delete it, use it if you, throw it away if you don't want to use it.
Okay, I see, okay.
It's
I
totally,
was wondering, I was trying to figure out where it came from. Okay.
Yeah.
okay.
yeah. This is just, doing a parks master plan is gonna cost, well, we spent, I think, 97, it was $45,000.
Right.
Now, the one Newport, they went in with a price tag of $85,000 and similar scope. And when it got renegotiated, they added some things in of $102,000. So they ended up with a price tag of $102,000 for their Parks Master Plan. So, we're going to be definitely, proud of $100,000. So it's really important to kind of know what we want and get what we are paying for that much money. And that's kind of one of the concerns I had with the campus is I'm not sure we had enough details on things that we could kind of pick some things and not others, you know. I don't know, you know, you probably have some better insights as to how you do it differently or get more, you know, I don't know.
Well, I like this for sure, because, it definitely lays it out better. I mean, I think the level of detail is better
Mhm.
on the RFP. I mean, we've seen that in other times where the quotes aren't the same
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
people aren't.
apples,
quoting
oranges, and
apples,
pomegranates.
So
Yeah.
the level of detail
Yeah.
is better, I
Yeah.
think, because, and itemizing out the deliverables is really good because
You
then
must-
they know exactly what they have to do,
Yeah.
and they're quoting
Yeah.
exactly what that is.
My experience with, the more detailed it gets, though, you do need to realize that we'll get way less bids.
True.
Mhm. Yeah.
We'll probably only get a few instead of, 7 or 8, whether, all it takes is one bid that we really like, so.
Mhm. Yeah.
But we will get,
Yeah.
because I've done more detailed ones in the past,
Mhm.
and you don't get many bids.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then if you
it
do a
takes
more
time.
generic one, you
Yeah.
do get a lot more
Right,
bids.
right.
Yeah, but then the hard part about that is, the one, then when you go with the low bid, or, the one that you think, and you don't necessarily get
Get the
all the quality that you want. And sometimes you can negotiate that, but, yeah, it's hard, but yeah, it is. The only saving grace, I think, on this one is that the folks that actually applied for Newport probably have, they're probably gonna take their proposal and, just like we took their RFP, they're gonna take their proposal and kind of massage it
Right.
to, follow this, because it's a similar process, so
Right.
that's kind of, and they had a whole list of, I can get a list of who, she said she would give that to us, the list of proposals and stuff that they got, so.
How did you guys do them in Ashland, Don? Did you guys do most in-house?
Most of it was done in-house, yeah.
That's what I figured.
That we did. Trying to think back to the, when we did North Clackamas, that was almost all in-house. Gresham used a consultant to do theirs when I was there. Or it had just been completed before I went there. And then Ashland had one that we updated just in-house. And it was just a update. It wasn't quite as out of date as what this one is.
Right.
It was just
North
a-
Clackamas, did they use any?
The initial one, we did in-house.
Oh, okay, was the late, because I thought I looked at that one.
Well, that would have been in the late 80s.
Oh, okay, I think they've updated it and used
Oh, I'm sure they did.
consultants,
And I'm
yeah,
sure
because I
they
know,
have.
I think I looked at that one and I
Yeah.
saw that it was done by consultants, yeah, I don't know. Okay, so yeah, that task 2.3 is kind of where you really get the public going, and they conduct a public workshop that serves as a public project launch and explains the whole purpose and scope and schedule, and how those people will be able to be involved all throughout the process. It's also going to be a web-based survey and online open house, so people who are unable to attend the workshop can also give input. So that's kind of a nice interactive mode. So the deliverables are the community needs assessment memo summarizing the results of the workshop, the survey template for soliciting online feedback, and electronic copy and 2 scaled hard copy drawings of the opportunities and constraints map. And that just that's the initial public input. Then they start with those design charrettes, and I don't know if you guys have been to those before, but Susan, you remember those? Yeah, you've been to them. They're really helpful because they kind of have pictures, they have maps and pictures, and people in public, that doesn't have a good handle on, we want input, but they kind of need to have something to look at, to give you input on, pretty, kind of drama pictures is how it goes. And so that's what this design charrette will do is kind of get input on preferred alternatives, of maps and park locations, parks designs, things like that. I'm not sure exactly how detailed they get, but I guess they'll let us know that. But out of that, they'll come up with this conceptual design for a trail system, design for the park spaces, facilities for the underserved people, and this is where, and we do need to kind of talk more about this. I don't have a good handle, probably nobody does, on, like on the front page of page 8. Feedback on the Sandy Community Campus options. So what I'm still, where you guys need to kind of provide direction or, something to these people is, you have the community campus plan. You don't want to totally throw that away and redo it, because that's not necessary, but, from what I can see, and you guys can correct me, that, there's a preference to kind of tweak it or something. So, I don't know, maybe not, I don't know if you want to just toss the whole thing in the garbage and.
I think, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think any of that's been decided yet.
Right.
I mean, they've,
Yeah.
we have the proposal, and then it'll be just kind of up to, as things lay out. Once we get through the budgeting, once, there's a whole bunch of wheels working in that
Right.
arena. And then, of course, figuring out, if we go out for a vote for the pool and things like that. So there's a long process with that community center.
Yeah.
So, not that it shouldn't be on the RFP for sure, but I think it's gonna be its own animal.
That's gonna be hard, that's gonna make it hard, because there's so many services that
Sure.
either could meet or not
Totally
meet, and so
understand.
that's
Yeah.
where,
Well,
it's kinda like.
so I guess,
Yeah.
not to leave you hanging, and,
Yeah, I mean, it's up to you guys, yeah, it's
What-
not me. Yeah.
But, kind of what I don't wanna speak for the entire council, but kind of just based off of what we've been presented so far, and kind of, I believe, where we're kind of sitting is, I would encourage you to include that in this RFP.
Mhm.
If you have wants and there are things that could be incorporated in that campus, and then as it develops, those will be things that could be potentially utilized in the master plan for that as it.
I think it would be good for you guys to kind of look at that and decide, do you want to, do you want them to kind of just incorporate everything as is? The city council can kind of give them some marching orders on that stuff as to how
Sure.
to do it. I think one of the other kind of decision points on there is, this park bond and park district. Part of this whole process is, a park district would be looking at all these, ball fields and things like that, and so, that's kind of a timing thing too.
Well,
And so, yeah.
if we do
That's
end
it.
up going out to vote for it, it'll go out to vote next May, so a year from
Mhm,
now.
yeah,
And then, depending on the outcome of that, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
but I think in moving forward with that, we've talked about maybe doing some surveys to get a sense of.
Well, I
what
included
the-
that,
What
yeah.
the potential is for, for that passing.
yeah, park bond,
Before
park
we spend
district,
a lot of
yeah,
money on an
yeah.
actual
Yeah.
vote.
But I think-
And things like that, so there's a lot of working parts
Oh, yeah,
at this
a lot of
point,
moving
so.
parts. And so I did go ahead and, again, this is all draft, you guys can just, change it however you want.
Yeah,
But what I did
put
was
a lot
I
of work into it,
Yeah,
so
I,
thanks,
at that last item, last bullet point at the top of page 8 is, input on potential park bonds or park district formation. Just getting public feedback
Sure.
on that. So there's, this is kind of, it's great to be able to do it as a whole, look at the whole elephant, because, when you want input on the parks district or the parks bond or whatever, some people will say, well, I don't use the pool or something. Well, it's more, but your kids play ball field, sports
Right,
ball
right.
fields and stuff. And so it's really kind of important probably when we do go ask them to have this kind of scope of, what it is this bond or district formation might cover, all the different amenities that we're gonna be, including in
Yeah,
that.
and
So-
that'll get addressed.
yeah, so I did kind of put it in here in a way, but,
Sure.
as to what that looks like, and that's just something that doesn't have to be decided now, doesn't have to be decided before you award the contract, but, it's something that'll be kind of meshed as you go through the process, so.
Yeah, I did. My guess is that last bullet point could have a large variance on
Yes.
costs associated with it, that the consultant.
Well, I mean, if they're doing, public workshops and charrettes and stuff, that's where you kind of just ask the question, and, I mean,
Not leave it, is what you're saying.
yeah, I mean,
Not leave the bond and
it's like, here's all the kind of different things,
just
I mean.
asking the question.
Yeah, just asking the question, and actually, you're actually gonna be asking the question again as you kind of bring back some more specifics
Yeah.
Right.
about,
And,
Yeah.
and, yeah, and
Yeah.
like I said, it'll all get addressed.
My only worry about including this in here is, does council actually want my department or Tanya's department with, because this charrette would be, it won't be, council won't have as much influence on what this is talked about, because it's gonna be kind of being done by our departments with this board, and not really it's not really gonna be a city council-led initiative if it's part of this document.
Correct, yeah.
Because from what
Well-
I understand is you guys kind of want this board and the staff that's working with this board to really work on giving you the parks
Yes.
master plan product.
And the community campus is kind of its own thing.
Yeah, so that's my only
And
worry.
we've already had a consultant and all those things, you know, they
Let
gave
me
the
take a look at it.
presentation last month, for that, so,
I mean, one thing I could do too is we can look at this, possibly refine it, and then I'm gonna send it over to probably our attorney's office,
Mhm.
just see if there's anything, not to look through
Yeah.
the tasks, but to look
Right.
at like the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Like if we're setting
Yeah.
the correct ORSs and stuff,
Yeah.
but then I'm also gonna get Jordan's input
Yeah.
before I,
that
Right.
sounds great.
Yeah.
And,
And-
and if you need clarification, by all means,
Yeah.
that's not necessarily a topic that I'm gonna speak for the
right, exactly.
group on, so
Okay.
if you need clarification, just,
Yeah, I think it'd be, a good topic. And that could be something like input on potential funding sources for future parks
Right, I think that
maintenance and
could be
things like
better,
that.
yeah.
Making it more vague and all
I think
that,
so. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's fine, yeah. Okay, then, again, the deliverables are the meeting notes, working drawings, and presentation materials that are done at the charrette. And in 2.5, it'll be some more public workshops and online survey open houses. And this is where you're gonna see memos summarizing, the results of some, let's see, I lost here. Okay, one of the questions, I'm gonna kind of try to figure out what's the difference between task 2.4 and 2.5. Maybe it's just a constant refining and, presenting,
I mean, it can be an optional task too,
yeah.
so that if the
Uh-huh.
cost is high, then we could drop it.
And then 2.6 is where they kind of take all the stuff they've heard from everybody, and they kind of get together with us, and we have three advisory committee meetings. The second one will be the kind of interview summary discussion, the level of service analysis review and park inventory, and the survey template approval. So this is where they're gonna go out for kind of an additional, so this other stuff has kind of been more of a design charrette is kind of just conceptual stuff. Whereas now we're gonna start getting on a whole lot more input, and so that's where they are gonna propose a survey. We'll approve the survey template. We have one already, and that's another one where, when costs, when things have to get bumped, we can say, we
Right.
have the survey template, give us comments on it, but otherwise use this. And then the third committee meeting will be the public workshop charrette and survey results summary. And then the fourth one will be if there is that additional workshop charrette, that might be a typo, guys, because I see third and fourth one saying the same thing, so.
Yeah, it seems like it. Unless they they'd probably charge us more for that one.
Do the same thing twice
Yeah.
and charge us
Hey,
twice.
they'll do it.
Okay, so I apologize, there's probably a typo there somewhere.
Yeah, I'll look through the whole thing.
Okay, and then, but the fourth advisory meeting, I think, is where we actually review the draft. They'll have the draft Parks and Trail System Master Plan at that point. That's what the fourth meeting will be about. And then the deliverables are the committee meetings, agendas, and meeting materials, and attendance at those. I would assume that also, again, I'm kind of editing this as we go, but that'll also be the deliverable will be with the draft, the outline, the draft park system outline that's mentioned above. Okay. Check that other thing. sorry. Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Uh-huh.
So I'm sorry, did you say you did get this from Newport?
Mm-hmm,
Okay.
yeah.
I mean, I'm going back to that question that Kelly brought up about the level of detail and the not level of detail. So looking at the master plan with the community campus, they put down workshops and stakeholder meetings and some of these things, but there was freedom, I guess, or leeway of how they did them. Good or bad, that's how they did them. So I'm wondering, going back to what Kelly said, is there a way to either phrase it or put it in there that, that we're flexible, that they have the opportunity to, I mean, does it have to be 4 advisory meetings with all these components? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, so that we don't get somebody that's like, well, I don't wanna do, 4 of these meetings, that's unnecessary.
yeah.
I really feel like,
Yeah.
we could get the job done in 2,
Mm-hmm.
that
Yeah,
meeting.
yeah.
So I don't know if that
Yeah.
needs to be, that
Yeah.
language needs to be in there, or
So,
will
yeah,
that
we can-
deter somebody
Yeah.
from going, well, I'm not bidding.
You can, we can certainly kind of make it, we can reduce the number of meetings, we can,
Right.
and I'll check that one, because I don't know if that's a duplication.
Okay.
We can, you all can negotiate that stuff. The one thing I would, when you make it vague, well, and you could say something like 2 to 4 meetings or something like that.
Right.
And I think you said attend up to, if there's usually language in here,
Okay.
attend up to 3 advisory meetings and stuff. So there is some language in here that, you guys can definitely add in to kind of make it more, like you said, and just know that when you, when one person bids on, they're gonna have 1, and the other person assumes they're gonna have 3, that's where you get,
Right, right.
Yeah,
Is that?
yeah, from doing a few of these, my one thing is a little, I think having like to me, having like the deliverables is really, really good, because you're gonna get, like you said, apples to apples. I think getting too specific on the meetings, because I'm hoping that whoever applies, they've kind of done this rodeo before, and they should really know when they're gonna come to us,
Mm-hmm.
instead of us dictating to them when they're gonna come to us.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if we can like really hammer down, this is what we want out of it, but
Mhm.
really make it flexible, like, this is how many meetings we'd expect, but then you would kind of lay out when we negotiate with you when you're gonna come to us with
Mhm.
products.
Yeah, I think that's all, you guys can
Yeah.
negotiate that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's very flexible, and that's what that first meeting is all about, is kind of refining the scope.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just did it with TSP. We've been refining the scope. And we've already dropped a meeting off, but then we've added something else over here to try to balance the money out a little.
Yeah. Yeah, so, and like I said, this is, throw this in the trash, edit it,
No, I think there's a
delete
lot
it,
of good stuff in
yeah,
it.
yeah, that was
I'm
kind
not
of.
saying that at all.
No, I know, but I
Yeah.
mean, I have no ownership to it, I just kind of
Right.
thought, I liked the level of detail, that, I like your comment also about not dictating to them, you're gonna have 4 meetings,
Right.
it's like,
Right.
if they can get it in 2 or whatever.
Right.
Or they might need 6, or,
yeah.
I have no
Yeah.
idea.
I think it's, for me, what's important is to make sure that, and you all are involved in kind of helping set up the meetings and stuff. And so for me, what's important is that we get the word out that the meeting's coming up. We don't hold a meeting on Saturday morning in September when half the families are at soccer practice. Things like that. So that we make sure we kind of get the public involved, because when we did it with our Sandy River Master Plan and our Bornstead Master Plan and all those charrettes were well attended and got a lot of great, that's how you get a good product,
Right.
is participation, so, good. And then you get to the phase 3, and that's where you kind of do the, wrap it up and documentation adoption. And that's where they'll work with everybody, including, obviously city council, and put together the nuts and bolts of a capital improvement plan, maintenance plan, policy guidance to facilitate development, so, updating your SDC park methodology, your parkland dedication policies and things like that. And implementation strategies, and that would probably be phasing and things like that. They're going to start, anyways, I'll go to 3.1. So that's where they develop the draft master plan, and they have the facilities inventory, the level of service analysis, and then what are the improvements to the existing parks, preferred alternatives, parks and trails expansion and acquisition, urban forests, things like that. There's park design guide, oh, they do have the park design guidelines in there, good, okay. Maintenance requirements, this should be a straight line, I'll edit that. Maintenance requirements, ongoing and projected, user fees and financing strategies, so that's where your, possible, discussion about, I'm sure that will come up, as it does in most, I don't know, Dawn, would you say that that's, in your parks master plans you've been doing, doesn't how are we gonna pay for this kinda get asked and at least options identified?
It always gets asked, but usually it's more dealt with in a broader discussion. As opposed to getting real specific in the master plan that says you're gonna use this amount of funding or these funds for this project specifically. Usually it's addressed in a much more general
Yeah.
way, and then, when it comes time to start folding things into your CIP, that's when staff typically drills down and starts identifying resources in a more
Right.
specific manner.
Yeah, and that's how it's worked here is, as grants became available
Sure.
or funding opportunities and things like
Yeah.
that.
But it's typically with the master plan, it's at a much higher level,
Yeah, Right.
It's the 40,000-foot look as opposed to the 4,000-foot.
well, we have to have, for the CIP, my understanding, and I could be wrong, but I think what you've told me over and over again, so I'm just gonna, is that, we have to have the CIP list because that drives the SDC methodology.
It does, and the places that I've been, the CIP has been a function of the budget process as opposed to the master plan.
It's a separate document,
Process.
so you can
Yeah.
update it every year or two.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
The
how-
rolling 5-year plan
Yeah.
for a
Right.
CIP generally.
Yeah.
Right.
And so you just keep rolling the projects forward as they get done or don't get done, and then moving the funding and identifying more funding and identifying projects that drop off because they're completed or because they're no longer needed.
Okay.
Yeah, and our plans, build 2 parks. It was as specific as it got, it was like build Tickle Creek Trail. Or, we didn't say how much or whatever.
Yeah.
So they were pretty vague and, there were some cost estimates thrown out, but like you said, then.
That's your master plans, or that was your,
That was the
CIP?
original, original master plan, and then with the CIP list every year, that's where we started kind of, identifying, specific projects that we would update, right?
Yeah, that's how we
Mhm.
do it, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, has that been done in the past, or?
yeah, that's where we, got the Sandy River
Oh, okay.
acquisition and developed,
Okay.
as kind of things came online, we started filling in specifics that kind of fit under those more vague descriptions.
So is the CIP list in the past, the park CIP list, was that ever adopted by council?
As part of the budget, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and see, that's what I always assumed amended the master plan, was that, it was the CIP list and adopting it by the city council amended the master plan every
see,
year.
I would look at it as more as informing the CIP. The master plan would be informing the CIP as to the projects, the upcoming projects. It'd be the staff responsibility with, depending on the level of approval of the Parks Board, what has traditionally transpired. That's where the projects are identified. And so staff takes that information, goes back, justifies it with the CIP, and then takes it to Budget Committee to get their sign-off on.
Mhm.
Some communities require going through Planning Commission, some don't, but typically CIP goes as part of the budget process.
I
That's
think
what
we've
we've
gone
done,
through planning
yeah.
commission in the past.
Oh.
When we did the Mornstead Park, we did, I know.
For the development
No, that'd be for a
stuff,
site
but-
plan
Yeah, that's the
specific
site
as
plan,
opposed
but
to
for
a.
the actual CIP list, that was the city council. It was the budget process.
Oh, yeah, we did, yeah, then. I mean, that's how we do the transportation CIP list, I know.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Gets updated by, or gets reapproved by council. I don't know if it's resolution or, I forget now.
That'd be a really good question.
It's either resolution or ordinance or something, I forget now. I think we just did it recently, so I should remember, but I don't.
So that 3.2 is where you kind of come up with that list of park system projects, and they can be as vague as, like develop two new parks in the next 10 years or something. We're specific if we know where and when
Right.
or what we want. But it's a 20-year planning period that you kind of come up with this prioritized list. and then land acquisition recommendations that can inform your land dedication policies, and then operation, maintenance, and funding implementation strategies. Volunteer this is kind of where they can, this is that part about how are we gonna pay for it, is, volunteer opportunities, funding sources, and that's where that park bond and park districting strategies, system development charges, methodologies, that's the SDC methodology update is gonna be a key part of
Yeah.
this.
And getting Mining Park to be able to be contributable to
Right, all that,
SDCs.
and Tupper.
And Tupper too, yeah.
Yeah, and then, again, then those goals, policies, and strategies that might have to get incorporated into your development code.
Right.
So the deliverables are there, the CIP list, the cost estimates, and this is where, probably it's most challenging to do because in my experience, we get these cost estimates and then the bids come in and they're 2 to 3 times higher. So trying to get accurate estimates is really.
Do you mean for the actual park improvements, like the individual improvements?
Well, you need enough, it's hard because you need enough specificity to do the SDC methodology, I mean, that's just wags, I know, but still.
In the information you sent me, the presentation, didn't it give a specific date as to when the SDCs were just updated? And wasn't it just relatively
It
recently?
was like 5 or 6 years ago, but it
Oh, was?
wasn't
Okay.
done by, I'll leave it at this, it wasn't done by an individual that knew how to write an SDC methodology.
Oh,
We need to update it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've had our attorney's office and also that, what was it, FCS group, or that group out of Seattle that does a lot of methodologies.
mhm.
And they both said, yeah, this thing needs to be written by somebody that writes these on a regular basis.
Well, and my understanding is that, your CIP list is what drives the cost of your CIP list and the population growth, and what percentage of that population growth can be attributable to this total cost is kind of how you come up with your SDCs. So having those fairly, good ballpark costs is kind of important. Because if they're too low, then your SDCs are gonna be too low, I think,
Yeah, no, it is.
so.
Because the methodology needs to basically define how much SDCs you need to collect.
Mhm.
And the only way you know that is how much money you need for future parks projects.
Mhm. How much
I
they're
mean,
gonna
that's what
cost,
you're
yeah.
basically saying, right?
Okay, so, so they kind of come up with all that, park dedication policy. And then the advisory committee, they'll come back and, where am I at? Excuse me, okay, so. That's where, kind of wrapping it up, confirmation of, what we recommend as a preferred alternative, reviewing that draft Parks and Trail System Master Plan, and Survey 2 discussion. It's kind of like, this is where these things are kind of working at the same time. They're developing this draft master plan, but they're also kind of working with us and others involved to draft up the CIP list and, make sure we've got the survey wants and needs incorporated in there. And so that's, yeah, you can cut any of this stuff if you want. Plan adoption is 3.4, and that's where the deliverables are gonna be the executive summary that lists the city's park system assets, goals, and policies. And the CIP projects with planning level cost estimates suitable for inclusion in the City of Sandy Comprehensive Plan. Is that,
Was it, sorry, can you repeat?
okay,
I
I'm
was
looking
thinking
at
about how to
page
write
of
the minutes.
11.
I'm trying to do the minutes at the same time.
That's
so-
okay, top of page 11.
Which
So-
one was it, I'm sorry?
So, top of page 11, top bullet statement, something about so help us understand how the Parks Master Plan gets amends the comprehensive plan, and how do those two,
Yeah, so that, my understanding, just like most plans, is the Parks Master Plan is a refinement to the comprehensive plan.
okay.
So I think during this, my hope,
Mhm.
and I think we should probably make it a goal in here,
Yeah,
I think
that's
that's
why
what
it's
this
in
is
here.
saying.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that you would look at the existing goals and policies in the comp plan, is that what this
Mhm.
is going for?
Yeah, it's just kind of
And
making
then-
sure they're all
Yeah, and then,
consistent.
defining what we should change in the comp plan.
Yeah, if needed, or just,
Oh, I'm
amending
sure-
your comp
I'm
plan
sure
to
there's stuff.
include,
Yeah.
to say that this is the new marching orders for
Yes.
the parks and trails.
Yes, I think that would be wise.
Yeah, okay, so that's kind of what that bullet statement meant. final report including project background, major findings, final park and trail system master plan, and the final park and trail SDC's methodology. So then
So
there's, yeah, go ahead.
Would we actually have them write the methodology though?
They will contract that out. Yeah.
So that's kind of two different things there.
Yeah.
You know, that's taking a master plan and expanding the scope beyond what a traditional master plan is.
Yeah.
Typically, typically the group that does your master plan doesn't necessarily do the SDCs. It's typically follows. And frequently, you're hiring a specialist to do that independent of the group that does your master plan.
Help me understand, why is it important to kind of, why wouldn't they
Not
just
necessarily-
subcontract that out, or?
Not necessarily that it's overly important or, you know, conflicts of interest or anything like that. It's just, typically, it's a pretty big bite at the apple as far as expenditures go. And if you're asking them to add SDCs into methodology into this, can be a fairly lengthy, inexpensive process. It also has the opportunity to derail all of the other work that's associated with the master plan. Sometimes groups will strongly be opposed to changes to systems development charges. And if the two are married together, then in essence, you have a group that might not like one element, but they're fighting against the overall plan. So I've always felt it better not to marry those two things together. Take the one, accomplish that goal, and then move on to
Yeah.
the next one
Okay.
with a separate dedicated budget to do that.
And I think we actually
That's a
already
good
have
point.
SCS group under contract.
Okay. Is
I
that-
believe.
yeah.
Well, I
Yeah.
thought that's.
Because Kim gave them a contract, they did some stuff, and then I think they still have money we've already paid them that they said they would put forth to the method. Yeah, I think so.
I can definitely see how that, you know, yeah, it's better to kind of put a bow on the master plan and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
start with that.
And then go on to the next.
The only thing I would add, though, is that it's helpful for the folks doing the methodology to understand, you know, what's in, you know, what's in the master plan itself. You know, all the assumptions and the costs and the projects and the scope and the population demographics and all that. I mean, when you know, have to turn around and pay for a new consultant to do that, I mean, they're kind of starting from scratch a little bit, so. But I can, you know, definitely understand why we want those as separate processes. And then this other stuff is just some ongoing, you know, kind of your communications, your format of your deliverables. And that's where it's asking for, again, you know, cost estimates on each of the items. Well, that's kind of further on, but it talks about like all the, you know, who's going to be working on it, what are the subcontractors they might hire, and who are those going to be, the timelines, coordination, monitoring, and then that number E is proposed cost of services, and that's where, you know, they'll kind of be breaking that down by tasks. And you know, you can lump it or split it however you want. Then there's an assessment on an evaluation process, and I've done this with Nancy and a couple other people that she brought into when we were doing one of the master plans, Bornstead maybe. You know, we put it out for bid and they made presentations, and then a group will go through and read their proposals and score them, and then, you know, the staff will make a decision on that and then make a recommendation to the city council on who they'd like to go with. That's it.
So
That was a lot of work. Thank you for.
Well, there's, you know,
No.
like I said, it's just kind of a first cut. There's a lot of editing to do. There's some discussions with Jordan and city council folks, and, you know, just making sure y'all are, you know, it's kind of a messy process here with, you know, in some ways, but, you know, even with the Sandy River plan and the Bornstead plan, we're gonna want them to kind of have a relook at those. Those aren't that, you know, those plans are fairly new. But we still, you know, there's gonna be more public input. You know, there's been a whole lot more neighborhood folks move in there. Don himself has a lot of opinions, but now Don totally disagrees with everything that was in that plan and wants to No, I'm kidding you, but, you know, that's the point, is that we will kind of have a little relook at some of the existing plans that have been done and get some, you know, fresher eyes on it and new input, so.
So, for staff, do you want us to take a look at what's been proposed tonight and propose some refinements and then bring it back to you guys in May, or how do you wanna proceed with this, I guess?
I think you kind of want to, in my opinion, I think we need to get moving on it, and I don't want to necessarily, you know, wait another month. I'd be okay with you guys, you know, I mean, this was just something that, you know, run with it, kind of, you know.
I
You
mean,
know,
is that how the rest of the board feels
Yeah.
too? I don't.
I guess I'd like to spend a little bit more time with it.
Yeah.
Maybe what we can do is, on our own time, read through it a little bit, make a few notes, and pass those back over to Kelly, and then you can take and
I'll be working
synthesize
with
it down.
Tanya on it too.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
We'll pass it over to Jordan before we send it out or anything.
Then you can kind of synthesize it down and send us the,
Yeah,
you know, kind of the copy of what's going.
yeah.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
probably gonna send it to Jordan, get his input, get Mike's input, because he writes a lot of these.
Mhm.
Probably send the first page just the first page to the attorney and make sure the ORS references are correct and everything, and then we can do that,
Yeah.
send you over something.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys have some edits and stuff, then you could kind of send those to us, and I will take a little cleanup of it, make sure I don't, you know, there's a few typo.
I mean, do you
things.
wanna
Yeah.
do that and then send it to staff?
Yeah, I'll send it to you tomorrow, just
Okay,
a
okay.
clean copy. Those things that I noticed that were.
So we won't touch it until you do that then?
Yeah, I'll do that
Okay.
tomorrow, I'll send it to you tomorrow, though.
Okay.
Kelly, when would it be helpful for you to get our comments back?
Well, if Kathleen's gonna look at it and send comments tomorrow or by the weekend,
Tomorrow,
it would be really nice if you wanna send it to everybody.
yeah.
And then if we could get comments, would like a week be too soon, or like the if I could get comments back by the 26th, maybe?
Okay, so just to recap, Kathleen's gonna take another stab, send it out to us, we'll comment on that you're
Yeah.
gonna send out to us, and forward them over to you.
Yeah, that works.
Okay.
And then I'll be working with Tanya and other staff members.
Sure.
And I will make that change about the scope of the bond and stuff like that, just kind
Okay,
of
yeah, that's fine.
generalize that,
That
generic that a little bit.
SDC.
Oh, yeah, and the SDC, so let me just change.
I marked it too, in case you missed it all.
SDC and change, bond.
And there's a-
Okay, and then we'll
Great.
probably get it out I can't promise exactly when, because, you know, with legal and stuff, it takes a little while sometimes,
Sure.
but, yeah, definitely the first half of May.
Just out of curiosity, who did Newport use?
I think they used Angelo and Greenworks, and then somebody else that I talked to used MIG. I have a bunch of notes that I took as I talked to them, so,
Just,
yeah.
yeah, don't bother looking
And,
it up, I was just wondering if you
yeah.
know off the top of your
And
head.
she was, you know, she used Jennifer at Greenworks.
Yeah.
And Mike Faya, yeah, it was, because, and some of this stuff also was, you know, they had to come out from Portland to Newport. So these meetings and all that stuff, they
Cost more.
kind
Travel
of,
time.
you know, they had to kind of be a little specific, because that's a big cost item.
That makes
Uh,
sense.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, I think we'll have a little more flexibility of getting them out here.
Right. Okay, so the next thing on the agenda is the dog park locations. Is that something to talk about tonight, or do you have some comments on that, Tanya, or from Sarah, or?
Sarah did not, and I apologize, Sarah's out. We didn't really talk about it. I mean, I think it was more about what the board had input. Have you guys had a discussion yet about it, or not really?
She was gonna kind of just come and give some input from kind of her feedback from dog park users, I think, is what she'd heard.
Okay.
But you know, you all have input.
She mentioned to me just in course of conversation the other day, this was not anything about a new dog park by any means, but, that she had been approached, or it had been brought to her attention one way or another, that the current dog park over in the Bluff neighborhood, is hard to access for handicap usage.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, she was looking at, extending where the small dog play area is,
Mhm.
extending, taking some fence, she said, I believe she told me that she already had the money for it.
Mhm.
Extending that fence down, and then creating another little access point there.
Yeah, right.
And that area doesn't really get used by the large dogs, and then that maybe would give, a better access, for handicap mobility.
Yeah.
That was the
Yeah.
only thing that.
And she and I talked about that too. And she, you know, we talked about the fact that it is kind of, if you use the dog park, you know, when you come in on the far side, you kind of have to go, you know, even on either the small or the large one, you kind of have to walk down that thing. And then from, you know, when you come in the other side, you know, if you want to try to kind of walk around the outside loop perimeter of the
There's
on
a
the
curve-
inside perimeter of the
there's a curve
fence.
there, yeah.
Well, on the inside of the fence, but around the edge and just kind of walk around, it's a little, you know, yeah, it's
Yeah.
kind of have to watch what you're doing, not to mention looking for landmines.
Right.
And so we talked about the possibility of, you know, as part of these park improvements, just kind of creating a packed gravel path, you know, around the edge, and then some railroad ties, steps, kind of getting better access to get people from the gate down to the flat, yeah. And then I noticed the other day, it does look a whole lot better than it did last year, but, and you know, with the moisture and stuff, but I think it's something that we still, from a maintenance standpoint, you know, in the past, we've had to really close it because it's really bad because they didn't water it in the
Right.
summer. Now they watered it last summer better, and so it looks a whole lot better. But I think it's still something that it's, needs to be seeded, you know.
Yeah, we didn't do it last summer, but we did it 2 years
Yeah,
ago, so
yeah.
I think it did really well, a lot better after
Yeah.
we did do.
Well, they
close it.
watered it last summer too,
Yeah,
whereas
was that
before,
the difference?
they would take the water out of the pond, and when the pond got low, they'd quit watering it.
Right.
And then it would just, you know, all the grass would die by August, and then, yeah, so. That was one of
As
the
far as the
problems.
locations, I don't think she really gave me feedback
I mean,
on that piece. I think we had talked about, I apologize, I'm not sure.
I don't know,
want
I did-
to speak
I did talk to
because-
Sarah like a couple weeks ago, and I did tell her that while I know there's a lot of people in the community that want a second dog park,
Yeah.
I think that that should be something that's really analyzed and looked at during the master plan
I agree.
process.
I kind of feel like
I mean, that's something the
Mhm.
consultant,
Mhm.
you know, as part of the charrettes and all
Mhm.
this,
Mhm.
I think they would define, that's how I'm kind
Mhm.
of looking at it, they would define another location, maybe, I don't know.
Right. And there's some improvements that we have funding for to do some shade structures
Right.
at Meinig. Yeah, I think, you know, kind of the spots that we've talked about is
Mi-
Cascadia.
you mean at Bluff?
What did I say?
Shape- you-
Mine.
you say
Mine.
mine.
I was like,
At the
Or a lot
existing
of
dog,
sh-
at the
yeah.
existing dog park, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
okay.
Sorry.
It's all right, I was just
Okay.
wanting to clarify.
We're all there.
We all
The-
knew what you meant.
Yeah, but the possibilities, you know, have been mentioned, have been, Cascadia, because there's a lot of dogs over there.
Yeah.
Or, you know, I don't know if Bornstead is an option. Deer Point,
Mhm.
there's a lot of dogs over there.
Somewhere on the south, I think. is-
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, there's really not any room for Barlow, Hamilton, Timberline. S- The only other, well, that would be a little dicey. You know, there's Timberline, or Tickle Creek Park that is not developed.
Right.
Now,
Mhm.
you don't have a lot of parking there, and those people wouldn't necessarily, yeah. It's always good to get the dog park in before the houses go up.
Right.
I mean, do you guys think, I mean, that was what Sarah and I were kind of talking about,
I think that
it was when
that's
you were in
good.
Europe.
Yeah.
And we were just saying, everybody, staff realized, everybody here realized, everybody wants one like now.
Yeah.
But I think, to me, it'd be kind of jumping the gun, especially when we're gonna be hiring a consultant to look at everything and evaluate everything. I don't,
Mhm.
that's just my thoughts, at least.
Have you got any input from any of your neighbors?
Bornstead is a very loved park.
Is that the default dog park?
Yeah. You see a lot of folks, you know,
Yeah.
come 5 PM, people getting off work, they're getting home. The dogs have, you know, been crated or in their garage or wherever they keep their dog.
Yeah,
And they bring them out, and it's not unusual to see,
yeah.
you know, half a dozen dogs out there
Mhm.
chasing tennis balls.
Yeah, a lot of them off leash and cheese
Hmm,
and because
yeah.
it's such a big area.
It is.
And it's nice.
And there's, you know, a number of neighbors and things that have made it their social opportunities too.
Sure. And once I look at the location, but I agree with you that,
So Susan, what do you think? Do you think we should kind of just put off the second dog park placement until the master plan is done?
I don't know, I don't,
Mhm.
go ahead.
Sure.
The Winston area, that, I swear, every person in that area has a dog. And they also built, they're building all those extra houses back there that haven't, we don't even know what the dogs are back there. Cause there's like about 80 houses back there. Then there's a Sandy Heights area that's on that side of the freeway also, that
Mhm.
uses it also.
Mhm.
And there, I'm not kidding, there
Oh,
are
yeah.
so many dogs over there.
I know. And they all have teeny tiny yards.
And they all have little,
Yes.
you know, little
Yeah.
kids too,
Yeah, right.
So,
with the dogs going
Mhm.
around.
just to let you guys know, so when I was talking to the city attorney, and that's what I was mentioning about the CIP list thing, is that he said if it's kind of mentioned in the Bornstead Park, kind of like what we were talking about last
Right,
meeting
yeah,
about the shelters,
Yeah.
gazebos. He said, okay, you can use SDCs
Yeah,
on those.
right.
My only concern, since there's really nothing
No,
about a
there was
dog
no
park,
dog park
yeah,
in the plan.
I don't think we
Yeah.
could use SDCs.
No, but this is, you know.
No, I'm just
Well, I think it's
bringing
a good
that up.
idea. I
Yeah.
think, I mean, here's kind of the dilemma we face, is that there's tons of people out there with all those dogs, but, you know, when you try to put it in their front backyard, you know, they're like, I want a dog park, but not in my front or backyard. You know, people, when the houses are already built, they don't necessarily want it. So it's good to kind of get it built before all the development happens, because then, you know, they know what they're getting. But I kind of, you know, I totally kind of agree that we should just, you know, put it into the parks. You know, hopefully we're gonna be done, you know, this process for Newport took a little less than a year. So my hope is that we are teed up for, you know, jumping on that with, you know, within a year. And that'll also kind of meet with, you know, grant opportunities and your park bond and districting timelines and things like that, so. Susan, do you have any thoughts on it?
Well, I mean, I just don't ever go to the dog parks. I don't have a dog now, and I see the dogs, you know, running around, or they can come in the gardens and, up and down the trails, and I, you know, just, I don't know. I still haven't really, figured out dog parks for myself, you know.
Okay.
I
Do they
mean,
come into the
my
community gardens?
sisters that have dogs in other places, you know, they don't feel safe in dog parks. I just don't spend time in dog parks. I don't really know. I don't have an opinion,
What's your
really.
thoughts?
I
Do you have a
guess-
dog?
No. I,
you have
when
an
I
opinion
did have
about
a
a dog?
dog, I never went to a dog park.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I've
Okay.
never been to a dog park.
What's your thoughts? Do you have a dog?
I don't have a dog right now, but I am a dog person.
Uh-huh,
We're pet free at the moment.
okay.
My thoughts are dog parks are tough. You're right, you know, placing them is hard. And everybody wants a dog park, nobody wants to live next to the dog park. You know, it's kind of like basketball courts, they have the same thing too. Everybody wants a basketball court, nobody wants to listen to us.
Skateboard parks.
Yeah, same thing. So, you know, it's a tough situation. At the same time, you're right, I live near Bornstead Park also. I'm there a couple of times a day with my grandchildren. In fact, I was there just before I came over here. And yeah, it's there, you know, it's not unusual for me to see half a dozen dogs out there, you know, up to that. I don't think I've seen more than that, but, and a gaggle of neighbors out there, you know, with them, socializing and enjoying it and throwing the ball and doing all those things. I assume, I really haven't taken the time to read the rules, but I assume that dogs are allowed in parks, but on leash only. I assume that Sandy has the same issues that just about every community has, which is difficulty in enforcing those rules. the, you know, which is, the best thing to say about that is that, you know, the rules are there. You can rely on the honor system or peer pressure, but you're also using those as a fallback in case there is a problem.
Yeah.
And, you know, if
Is
somebody.
is there adequate poop stations over there?
You know, there's some bags over there, and frankly, I've seen most people being pretty responsible about it.
Mhm.
And there's plenty of poop in the bin. Anytime you go by.
Yeah,
you can tell
it's obviously used.
Somebody is using
Yeah.
that bin. so-
And I have yet to
Yeah.
step in it.
I mean, so it's being used.
Right.
you know.
And I've been
Yeah.
walking around a lot. My grandson has
Yeah.
a power wheel thing that he likes to drive around out there, and so.
And they did put that second one up
Yeah.
this
Did
last
they?
year, which
Yeah.
really
Okay.
helped, because it was at both ends.
Right.
Good.
So I think that, you know, generally speaking, I think the neighbors are pretty responsive and responsible about it. I don't, you know, think there's anybody that's not attending to their dogs while they're out there. But at the same time, you know, it's the rule's the rule, and, you know, you gotta deal with that.
Yeah.
Having the dog parks is a nice option, and a lot of people look at that as, you know, it's a great place to run their animal, but it's also a great place to meet and form a community. And so you see a lot of that. And I know I've had several dog parks. The one that we had in Ashland was about, maybe an acre and a half in size. You know, Ashland gets a lot of tourism, and we probably had half the community that would use it would be either tourists, you know, and the other half would be the locals.
Mhm.
But we were a little bit different down there. For many years, we didn't allow dogs in the parks.
Mm.
And it was, you know, we had enough employees out in the parks that did the rule enforcement, reminders, that we weren't relying on peer pressure necessarily. And so people were pretty well trained as to where they could take their dogs. Now, the tourists, on the other hand, were not well trained.
No
And so that was a
control.
constant battle in dealing with that. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, dog
Do you have an
park.
opinion on the, you know, incorporating the dog park thing into the master plan, or kind of moving forward with something in the meantime?
I would leave it as a master plan function. I don't know that, I haven't been here long enough to say, yep, there's an absolute pressing need for a second dog park in Sandy. I don't know that there isn't, don't know that there is, so. But I think I would, you know, that's a pretty big investment in time and energy. So I think I would make sure that it's cited properly and let it go through the master planning process, as opposed to just saying, yeah, there's a big square, let's go put a fence around it.
Okay. Well, it sounds like there's a consensus.
I think so.
Okay. All right, then, I will just quick add on to that, that poster that I did.
You want to add that now, or?
Yeah, let's just add that. Does anybody see any edits to that? Did you have a
That-
chance
this
to
one?
Can I
look at-
just give you
Yeah.
mine?
So there's two things I actually have. There's just some kind of little 8.5 by 11. I was just going to print them out on. I've got a bunch of cards, waterproof cardstock that just say, you know, do you like to run on this trail or something? You know, if you're interested in help, you know, would you like to see more trails in Sandy? Are we hooked up at all? I can open it up.
Yeah, the TV
Okay.
should be on.
You know, just something to post in the parks and on Tickle Creek Trail. But
Are you plugged into that device?
yeah, I think I am. Oh, good, good deal.
Just kind of shorten it up maybe.
Yep,
I don't want to scare
definitely.
somebody before they get you know?
Okay. Let's see. Give me a minute to find it.
You just sent it to me, so I can send it. You
Oh,
can
it
look
was-
in your email.
It was the signs? Yeah.
You just added that,
Yeah.
no?
There was,
Is that it?
is that it?
That's it.
That's
Well,
it.
but there was also, I had done just those simple ones that I sent you.
Oh, yeah.
What was that?
I don't remember. That was a while ago.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so, I don't know what I did with it.
I kind of like this one more.
Well, that's kind of, yeah.
I mean, it's just like
That's a lot
more-
of work. I mean, this other one just has a few words. It's kind of something you just
Yeah.
post where people are walking by.
This one's just kind of more fun, like with all
Yeah.
the pictures and everything.
Yeah. Okay.
Personally, that catches my eye a lot more
Mhm.
than the other one did.
Okay. All right. Who do you want to be the contact person? Do you want them to call you? That's where I kind of didn't.
Probably have Tanya on there.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. Tanya and I need to discuss that still.
She's in the bathroom. What's your
Tanya's
decision?
it, not me.
Wait, wait,
Yeah, I know.
that's your opportunity.
Not me. I think Tanya probably. She's the one that receives the.
Applications.
Mhm.
Okay.
They still go to her on the
Okay.
website.
Okay.
I've never gotten that changed.
Okay. I'll change to that. I'll make these changes that Susan suggested. Do you have, I'll send them to you, and if you have any other, I'll kind of edit what Susan gave me and send it to you electronically, and you guys, if you have any other edits to it, send it back to me.
Okay.
Okay? Yep, that's that. And then now the community or mitigation trees?
I just want to make sure. So
Okay.
Tanya, you're fine with getting the new recruitment people, right? When you were out of the room, I said you'll get all that. So.
I will deal with that. Oh, the recruitment.
'Cause I think you
You'll
already
never
get-
leave, you'll never
don't you-
leave a meeting again.
Don't you already get the applications?
I do normally.
Yeah,
I haven't
so-
gotten one. I don't remember if I got Dawn's though. so
Yeah, you
now
did, 'cause
I'm
you sent- you
questioning.
forwarded it to me.
I did, okay,
Yeah.
I did get it.
You forwarded it to me.
I have one question. So I know that we were reviewing, the, bylaws. Is it, all city residents? I have had a couple people mention that they are interested, but they don't live within the city limits. So I didn't know if for some reason I thought there was the possibility of one person on the board could be not in the city limits, is that correct, or no? Is it always been city
I mean,
limits?
I don't think
Residents
I don't think your bylaws are officially established yet, so I think you could have some flexibility on that still.
Don't ask us, we don't know our
'Cause
our
we
bylaws, our
have-
rules and responsibilities,
I've
those are
heard
all
about-
getting
I-
set by you guys, so.
I have them
yeah.
and I need to look at them and then I'm
Yeah.
gonna bring them to the next.
I
would-
brought it up at the chamber meeting this morning.
Mhm, good.
Mentioned to everybody,
Yeah.
and I had 3 people interested.
Mhm.
One was a resident and 2 are not, but they
Yeah.
use the trails
Right,
all
yeah,
the time. You know, they live
Yeah.
Cherryville or Oring, and they're here, and so I just wondered if there was flexibility on that.
We
at all.
have in the past had, I believe, one person, a long time ago, that we allowed for one person. So that's up to you guys, you know, how you want to establish it for us. I would say that we could get a lot of people interested that are outside the city limits, so from where I sit, I'd like to be a little picky about that. And
Right.
what I think is important, first of all, is let's get some younger people on here, because, you know, I think I'm the youngest, right?
Probably.
Right.
Okay, and I, you know,
Looking at the hair color, yeah.
okay, only my hairdresser knows for sure. But I want to get some younger people, but also really important, especially as we're going into this master planning process, you know, somebody that represent the sports leagues, somebody that, you know, trail
Kids,
walkers, somebody,
families.
you know, we've got community
Trail
gardens.
walkers, that sounds like zombies.
Well, you know, the trail folks.
Yeah, I got you.
You know,
How many positions are there?
7?
7.
Yeah, yeah, so,
So openings are plenty.
Yes.
yeah, so
3 at least,
definitely,
yeah.
you know, I want to get some, you know,
Kathleen.
some family people that use the tot lots or, you know,
Mhm.
sports fields and,
It's always nice to have a
yeah.
broad spectrum,
Yeah.
right, with people who use
Yeah.
the parks for different reasons.
Right.
And so that's
Absolutely.
why I'm wanting to get these things out, is to really start recruiting people and, you know, sending some invites to folks,
Right.
if we know folks that, you know, are in a particular area, or go into the, you know, Sarah could go to goes to those rec league things and talk to them, and, you know, yeah, I'm sure there's folks out there, yeah.
Well, and we can also maybe laminate them even and put them at the dog park
Yeah,
or the
that's what I was gonna do.
community garden.
Yeah, I kind of made one up for Tickle Creek Trail, for the regular kids park, and for the dog park. I made 3 different versions of the poster.
Just a suggestion, we do on planning commission, allow 2 non-residents, so as long as they both own businesses in the community. So you could do, I'm not saying it would have to be
Yeah.
that, but it
Yeah.
could be something like, they don't have to live in the community, but they have to have some tie to within the city.
Mhm.
And I don't know what that tie would be.
Yeah.
They utilize the parks a lot, you know, if they,
Yeah.
if it's, I mean,
Yeah.
it, obviously it's your guys' decision, but,
Mhm.
you know, to me, it would stand to reason that they're utilizing the parks,
Mhm.
and not just like one-dimensionally,
Mhm. Yeah.
you know.
I just wanna make sure we get the other positions filled with residents
Sure, of course.
first.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
of
or
course.
especially, and then,
Yeah.
you know, yeah.
I mean, you could have like one non-resident
Yeah.
member in that lives in Clackamas County or something like that, so
Yeah.
it's,
Or within a certain miles. within
Yes,
the-
yeah, exactly.
You know, maybe somebody who just lives outside or,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Right.
something to think about.
maybe they have to show that they have a 97055 zip or
Mhm.
something like that.
Okay. Mitigation trees in Bornstead Park.
Okay, so this is an interesting one.
Do you have
I-
a,
You know, I have the, can I
you wanna?
forward you
plug?
this?
Yep. Do you wanna
Oh,
plug
yeah,
in?
yeah, I can just plug in. That'll work too. I can't use that plug, I have to
Oh,
use
this one?
This one. Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's in the remote control. That's what it says.
There's some remote over here. As usual, it's just.
Is anything showing up on your guys' screens over there?
No.
Still on the computer, so.
Oh, it's because this is not in here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm glad you know what you're doing.
Yeah, there we go. Should work now.
There we go.
So,
Well,
yeah.
Oh, that's a lot of trees.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so,
that is.
so let me just lead this off by saying, one of the subdivisions, that was just mentioned by Carol in the audience, Mountain View Ridge, which is the one right down here.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um,
Is that the new one that's going in?
well, there's a new one going in here and then another new one, Marshall Ridge,
okay.
going in here. This
Okay.
one has, 39 houses, I believe, and this one has 37, so
Okay.
they're roughly the same size. And this one will have access on four instead. So this subdivision had a requirement, because they didn't retain enough trees, to install 46 mitigation trees in their subdivision. And we've been having a huge issue with mitigation trees, because what happens is they get planted by the developer or builder, and then the new homeowner, some of the people water them, and the trees are very successful, but at least half of the people do nothing with them, and they all die. And then, so it's an enforcement issue that then we have to go out there, write letters or fines or whatever, and say you have to put new trees in or pay money to put trees elsewhere. So one of the developer people just sent me this last week saying, oh, instead of planting these 46 mitigation trees in Mountain View Ridge, which they're committed to by their land use order, so the land use decision, we could just throw them all in this park. And I said, well, hold on a second. I said, first of all, I want to get input from the Parks Board. This is not going to just be a planning director decision. Second of all, 46 Doug fir or evergreen trees in this park over time is
No.
just, these fields aren't going to be fields anymore.
No.
I said, I'll bring it to them, and maybe there's a possibility that they would want a few of the trees planted in there. But I said 46 of them is crazy. Yeah, as you can see, this is also not designed by somebody that designs parks, because they're like all in a line with no groupings or clumps. I mean, these are evergreen trees. You'd want to have them in like clumps and stuff. They're
I'm glad
not.
They did it that way though, 'cause it makes it that much more unattractive.
Right. They're not, they're not street trees, essentially. So, that's one thing. Let me show you another thing.
And just clarify for me, tree committee meeting tomorrow, but the, I forgot, they have to be Doug fir, or can they be other things?
I think the order on that one said Doug fir, but we'd be willing to work with them, but they do have to be evergreen. So there'd have to be a cedar or something that's gonna get gigantic at some point.
So question,
Why don't
going
you
back to,
stick 'em on
because
Tickle
they have a
Creek
land
Trail?
use agreement that says that
I have
those trees
one in
have
my
to
yard.
be in there.
They need
Subdivision.
more trees on
Subdivision,
the
thank you.
trail, because they keep
Missing
falling
word.
over, they can stick them in
How
the
do
trail.
how does that go? We wanna put these in a park, which is not in our subdivision.
Well, yeah, they-
I mean, I'm asking for clarification.
Yeah, no,
I
they,
acknowledge.
they have to do it now. What they're saying is, oh, instead of having another subdivision like Zion Meadows, where half the homeowners maintained them and half them didn't,
Sure,
and then
sure.
I've been battling back and forth with homeowners, which, believe me, that's not what I wanna be doing either.
Right, right.
I wanted to see these
Well,
new
this came up
homeowners.
at council last
Yeah,
month,
I wanna see
right?
these new homeowners like to
Yeah.
live here and not feel like they're getting like, harangued by staff.
Sure.
But, all we're doing is basically following the decision, and
Right,
that decision
which is that
said,
we want the town to be green, yeah.
correct.
Uh-huh.
So they're basically saying, oh, here's a compromise, instead of you having to do that, we'll just throw them all in this park. Yeah.
Put the
No.
whole maintenance thing on you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's one, and then,
Oh, it gets
so
better.
he knew that, yeah, so then he sent this one, or we could just throw all 46 of them.
Soldiers in a line.
Yeah,
Where's
exactly.
that?
Yeah.
This is Bluff Park.
Bluff Estates? Oh, my
What,
God.
oh, wait,
Oh.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
No.
So Emily brought up a good point. She's the planner in the office that knows, kind of has the most green soul, I guess, out of any of us in the office. So she said, that's not even this, because the code's intention is if you're removing trees and then replanting them, they should be in kind of the same watershed.
Yeah.
And this watershed is like 3 creeks over, and yes, she's like, this doesn't make any sense. So,
Well, not only that, but the intent of it, at least the way it was brought to council, was that the whole idea is to keep all areas green, right? So we're kind of
Correct.
distributing
yep.
the wealth per se, and this obviously doesn't do that, but.
So I did want to bring up one other thing, and you're not committed to put them in Bornstead Park, but because it has been such a disaster with the Zion neighborhood, as far as just some people not wanting them, some people wanting them, we kind of came up with a compromise, and that compromise was that some people, if they really, really, really just did not want their retention or their mitigation trees, we would allow them to buy out, and that would be they would give us a certain amount of money, and I think it's like $500, and then we would buy the tree, and then we would water it and maintain it for the first 3 years, so it would grow to maturity. So we do
500
have, what's that?
Per tree?
Per tree.
Where is the tree getting put?
We haven't decided yet.
Random places
Oh.
throughout
So,
town.
Hopefully in the same kind of area, but we could put them, I was hoping we could put some in Bornstead. So let me finish here real fast. So if we do want to do that, we already have some trees that could go there. I don't know why we would take these additional trees that are now being proposed those. So we have enough money right now. We have $5,500 to plant 11 trees that have come out of Zion Meadows now, somewhere in that area, we're hoping. And then we have 3 outstanding enforcement cases with 2 trees each. So that could be another 6 potentially. So we might have 17 trees to plant. It doesn't have to be in Bornstead Park, but somewhere in that watershed, hopefully.
Well, is
Um,
that, you were talking about, how many trees have fallen on or around Tickle Creek Trail. Would it be possible to, put them in Tickle Creek Trail somewhere?
Well, the only downside to
You know,
putting
that's
them
not-
in Tickle Creek, because I use that trail, I was on that trail today actually. There's a couple problems with it. One is that an individual clear cut, the upper side of the
Yeah,
hill,
right.
which has now allowed the wind to come ripping down
Right,
that,
yeah.
which causes a lot of that tree fall. So there's no way to protect those trees from that. And then the other is that that's kind of a natural forest, and I don't know where you would, I honestly don't know where you would plant more trees in there. It's pretty dense.
well, actually, you'd be planting small trees.
Right,
So
right.
here's the thought, because there has been quite a bit of blowdown there.
Yes.
But even throughout the corridor, there's been blowdown happening, and I talked to the arborist, because I was kind of concerned that there was all these a public gal that lives over there, Tamara. She called and sent, she said something like, oh, this they cut a bunch of trees and left these 4-foot stumps. And so I kind of asked Mike, he didn't know anything about it, and then I just kind of, he said, you know, named the arborist. I called the arborist and said, oh, I'm just curious, what disease did they have? And, because they were young cedars, and young cedars usually aren't, you know, that. So anyway, long story longer, but they've been taking some trees out. You know, we have had some blowdown in Tickle Creek, you know, some big ones too, some big cedars and big Doug firs. And so it is important, you know, there is some unraveling that's happening just because of the development around, the clear cut and things like that. And so what's important is to go ahead and start planting some understory in there, and get, you know, new ones kind of coming up. You know, a lot of the stuff is alder, you know, because it was logged, and so putting in some firs and stuff can help that. The one thing this arborist said, I don't know if I agreed with him, he was like saying that the cedars were dying because of drought and because of climate change.
I have heard that.
I have the forest, you know, pathologist, entomologist gal lives right around the corner, so she was going to go take a look at them and just, you know, see if there was, because there is some
I see
issues
what- I
going
see
on
what
with
you're saying
cedar.
about
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
That
just
would
kind
be
of creating a
versus some-
replacement stand.
But that's
So that's
still
some
in the same
yeah.
watershed, so.
Right, and you
So
know,
I
the
guess-
same thing with over by Sandy Bluff Park, you know, that whole watershed in there is kind of falling apart too. There's a bunch of, you know, they cut all the valuable trees and left all the crap, you know, alder and stuff. And so both of Tickle Creek and that Sandy Bluff by the pond drainage could use some additional planting. I know Sandy Watershed Council's done some, but that doesn't meet the requirement. For me, I guess, I don't mind having some more trees in Bornstead Park, especially if they could provide some shade to the people
Right.
bitching about all the sun at the structure. But I guess I don't really agree that they need to be Doug fir. I mean, if we had some nice hardwoods out there, that would be nice for shade. But I know you guys are stuck on the hard Doug fir, you know, evergreens or something. I'm not sure why it has to be evergreens, but that'd be my 2 cents.
I mean,
on it.
that's what the code says, is that
It
if
does?
you remove,
Yeah, the code says it, again, they gotta keep them over here too.
Right,
so
but the code
if we're
says-
making
yeah,
compromises.
I mean, I would
yeah,
be willing to make a compromise though if I have like a board that's agreeing that it's a decent compromise.
Yeah,
I don't want to make a compromise on something to that level if I haven't talked to anybody in the community or no board members. It's just bad policy, I think,
Yeah.
to just start accepting things like that.
what do you
Yes.
think, guys?
There isn't any, I mean, what is the creek out there, right there, near there?
I don't know the name of it.
Is it actually running inside the pink, or is it,
No, it's outside, yeah.
it's down here?
Yeah. It's where all the trees are.
Yeah, right.
Some of it's in Tickle Creek and some of it's in, I think it's Deep Creek there.
So I mean, I guess the first question is, are we in favor or against planting 46 mitigation trees in
Oh.
Bornstead Park or Bluff Park?
I would not be in favor of that.
No, me neither.
Mike?
Probably not.
It's unanimous.
Is there any number of trees that you would like to potentially, for me to negotiate with them to get in the park? Or would you rather,
When you did the design for Bornstead Park, did you hire a consultant to do it?
Yeah.
that would be
yeah.
Kathleen, I was,
So I assume the consultant was a landscape architect
Mhm. Mhm.
that went out and took a look at what the character of the neighborhood was gonna be. Probably recommended what kinds of amenities to put in, probably recommended what kinds of trees to put in. Probably didn't recommend 46 Douglas fir trees to go in. Probably didn't recommend any Douglas fir trees to go in, for that matter. I think since the city spent the money to hire a architect to do the design of the park, since the city spent the money to build the park for the design specifications from the landscape architect that designed the park, I don't think I would be adding a lot of trees to that plan. And one of the things that's really nice about the park is there's a lot of open space out there. And something that's none of the neighbors really have in their backyards. You know, the average lot size is a little over 5,000 square feet, I think, for most of the neighborhood there. And I live there, you know, we live down on the bottom part. I have 4 trees in my yard that I will water. But, but I just have a hard time, you know, taking a park that's obviously successful, that's going to be successful, that hasn't matured yet. And because the developer has to find 46 trees, I'm not quite sure that's our responsibility.
Can they, what happens if they take up one of their lots and put
46 trees.
the trees?
Yeah, right. 46 trees.
We'll call it the Sandy Tree Lot.
Yeah, I mean,
Isn't
that's
there
an option.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what,
I was
you know, if
gonna
we
say
want the
there's one
islands and
area
stuff, you
that
know,
they
yeah, I mean, I'm
didn't-
sure they can find the crappiest land out there that, you know, works for them.
I mean, I walked that area right there, and there is one area that there is still
Yeah,
some trees.
those are the ones they retained.
Right, they should plant them near those trees,
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
all around.
I will put
the
these as
universe.
suggestions to them.
And the other thing I would say is that, you know, it sounds like you do have some mitigation money from whatever.
Mhm.
Getting some, big you know, 2 or 3 big hardwoods, and by big I mean, you know, 6 feeders, balled up, and get them, you know, you got some money to come out and plant those in that strip. Can you put the picture up?
Yeah, I know what
You know,
you're
by
talking
around,
about.
you know, the picnic tables by the splash pad, just so people have a little bit more shade.
Yeah.
It's kind of the strip around the splash pad, yeah, between the sidewalk and the splash pad there.
Put it near the community
Yeah,
garden.
that would be kind of, that
Because I don't want
would
any
keep
shade
your,
out there.
keep your open space, you know, by putting it between the sidewalk and the splash pad, it's just a, you know, a strip there, but you could put a couple of, you know, 2 or 3 6-footer, you know, get some bigger, use that money to put in some more shade trees right in that area. That would be,
What's that?
I said, I just feel like I'm not part of the board, I'm just here as a liaison, but, I mean, I feel like, you know, this is part of his land use agreement, it's his
Yeah.
problem.
It is
Yeah.
definitely his problem.
Yeah.
And if he
Yeah.
wants
I
to
don't
catch
believe
a
it's
check
the
for
problem of
23
this board
grand,
to try
Yeah.
to figure out what parks to put those trees in.
yeah.
Yeah, they just
Yeah.
asked if
Yeah.
I could throw them out there, and I said, well, if the Parks Board gives me direction that that's what they would like to do, I will at least consider it.
Oh, you asked.
Uh,
We answered.
But,
Answer due diligence.
yeah,
and my
exactly.
comment was just referring to the money
Yeah,
you'd
no,
already collected,
I
not to
understand, yeah.
these, not to using, getting these guys.
Yeah, it's just a suggestion of
Yeah.
maybe using it a little different.
Okay, so.
I think I have a decision there.
Input?
Oh. you-
Yeah, and
you
so
wanna
the
put-
last thing I have is that we only got about half the, grant on the Johnsford Viewpoint, project. The project, can you,
They gave you
blow that up for you guys?
half the grant?
Yeah, you know, you cannot win if you do not play, but, you know, so the moral of the story is ask for, you know, 50 to 75% more than you need, and, and then, you know, and then you'll get what you actually, I kind of forgot that rule of the grant writing thing, is ask for more than you need. Anyway, I don't know that we would have gotten a whole lot more because they only had so much money. And,
Yeah.
you know, I was asking for, okay, can everybody see that?
Yeah.
The total project was 17,300. I had asked for a match, city match of labor from the parks staff and myself of $2,400 with total project cost for $19,700, so almost $20,000 project. The things that they did say that they would fund, and I'm just gonna go through and put greens for the ones that they said they would fund, was the viewing telescope, the entrance sign, the interpretive sign. I think that was, they gave me like $10,000. So I think those were the things, the things that they were gonna pay for.
Yeah, I think that's correct.
Is that, yeah.
But not the fence rail, huh?
That's
And not even that, because it's 10,920 for all those, and they gave me 10,000. So, so the fence rails have been pressure treated. You know, these are all pretty accurate costs, because I went and got all bids and everything. Yeah, so I need like, this, well, $7,300 in, other money to make this happen.
How much, 73?
7,300.
Hmm.
So what I'd like to kind of suggest is that, I guess I'm asking for a recommendation from the Parks Board that we use some parks money. I don't know whether it's, I guess that would be maintenance money or something, or,
I think it would.
I mean,
Makes sense to me.
cleaning, pressure washing stuff, that's maintenance, replacing structures is, anyway. It's however you guys to see this, so whatever pot of money that would have to come out to. I would like to ask for a recommendation from the board, to, suggest that $7,300 be set aside to kind of do the whole project at once, because, you kind of want to put a bow on it. You don't want to be out there with all the rails and stuff all rotted out. They're like 25 years old rails. They did pressure wash them and they look good.
They do look good right now.
But don't go up there and try to, sit on one. Let me put it that
Oh,
way.
really?
Because they're old and, just one kick would take them out, so. So, yeah, I'm asking for a recommendation for that.
Where would this 7,300 come from?
Parks maintenance. Do you know what the budget is for that?
I don't, because I'll have a better picture of that in a few weeks once we go to the budget committee hearings. So I don't really.
I think your 2-year budget for parks maintenance, could be wrong on this, but it's about 600,000 plus.
Sounds about right.
692 or something like that, yeah.
I think it might even be a little higher.
Yeah,
than that.
600 to 700, and then everything got an 8% raise, so,
No, not yet.
no, okay.
No, yeah.
That was retracted at the council
Okay,
meeting.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, so, yeah, between 600 and 700,000, that's a 2-year budget, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
so
but
it's,
I don't know how much
350,
money is
yeah.
left in there this biennium.
Right.
Yeah.
so anyway, that's, yeah.
Who did this money come from, the grant? Is it
The
the
Clackamas
tourism?
County Tourism.
It was, oh, okay. So we can't get any more tourism money from anybody?
No,
So the fence rail replacement, would that be a safety issue?
no. Yep,
Is that really
Just
our,
clip,
and again, new guy
health and
asking,
safety, yeah.
is that our role to determine what our maintenance priorities are for the?
No, normally we wouldn't be doing this, but what I'm saying is that since this was kind of a project, the whole ball of wax,
Right.
they
So-
told me that some of this stuff is maintenance, and, I can go ahead and do what I've, can do with what I've got, but that leaves
So
half
would
the
it,
project.
would it be better for us then to just have a little motion that says that we, recommend or request that maintenance be done in these additional areas?
Yeah, that's kind of what I
And
was
kind of
asking
leave it up
for.
to the staff to figure out
Yeah.
if it's doable or not.
That's what I was asking for.
Okay. Then I would make that motion, that we send a request to maintenance, asking them to, where possible, replace the failing railings, remove the blackberries, prune the trees, and not sure about the telescope stand refurbishment, if that's something that they have, or the rock wall repair, if that's something they have the expertise to do or not. I don't know.
They don't.
So they'd have to contract.
They
them.
did it, and that's why it's being retained.
Oh.
Because it is.
Well, why don't we just send them this
Yeah.
list, tell them the feedback that you got.
And
from
I've been
the-
working with Joe anyways. I mean, he gave me the quotes for the blackberry removal and stuff. He'd already gotten those. So they're on his to-do list, I think,
Okay.
yeah.
So he would contract with somebody to get the rest of it?
And maybe-
Right, I mean, to do it right.
Now, Joe is.
The parks maintenance superintendent.
So if Joe is informed that we were able to secure funds for these, he'll be able to take care of the rest of them for us.
Okay. Is that,
That-
anybody have a
I'll
second?
it.
Susan seconded it? All right. All right, so we'll be able to work with them and hopefully get the whole project done. I'm hoping that we can get the project done by June-ish,
Mhm.
hopefully. Kind of depends on the viewing telescopes is the one thing that's probably holdup, because we're, yeah, just takes a little shipping time, it's coming from Alabama or somewhere, so, okay. That's it. Any other old business?
No, I think there was one other thing.
Oh.
So there was the staff email regarding Tract M, that I think James put in here that basically
Is that
said,
on the agenda, or, oh?
Yeah, it's
Oh,
on the
the
second page.
community gardens,
Yeah.
that's not,
So,
oh, okay, I'm
7
sorry.
minutes, something.
so the city manager made the final authority on accepting, land donation for Tract M in Sandy Bluff. After looking at it and evaluating it further, we decided, we would take ownership if they were willing to,
Okay, does everybody know what
remove
we're talking about? Let me just.
invasive
Yeah.
species and stuff.
So this is the parcel in Sandy Bluff Park, Don. There's a
Mhm.
parcel over there that was, an area that was open space owned by the developer. They weren't taking very good care of it. They kind of wanted to give it to us, blackberries and all.
Of course.
And we kind of said, no, thank you unless everything's kind of cleaned up and maintained for a certain, replanted so it's not going to go to blackberries. So what did they?
So basically, yeah, we'll take it if they want to do all that, and if the owner wants to do that, we'll draft an agreement, review it with our legal, and take ownership of it with the maintenance agreement. But I don't think they're gonna. We haven't heard back from them yet. I don't.
Does
You
he,
think they will agree?
No.
Oh, they won't.
So they'll just keep.
They were just trying to dump it off so that
Yeah.
they don't have to maintain it and then not pay property taxes. But the property taxes are so low that for them to pay for somebody to do all this blackberry removal, I think it would be like 30 years of property taxes. So I doubt they're gonna. I really doubt they're gonna do it.
do they need 46 Douglas fir trees?
It's a swamp,
Well,
so I hope
It
not.
is a
Oh, cedar
wetland.
trees. Okay.
Yeah.
Is that the plot of land that's,
There's like that
You know,
little
when the
wooden
pedestrian bridge
a
there,
little wooden bridge.
to go from the,
Oh, yeah.
kind of the back
The
way.
neighborhood.
Yeah.
To go from that other neighborhood, there's a little pedestrian bridge.
Right there?
You go over the bridge and
Yeah.
you look left and right, it's
Yeah.
all,
All that section.
Yeah.
All that,
Okay.
Yeah.
all that low area.
Yep.
Yeah, and that was all full of old growth cedars before that got
Was
cut.
it?
Oh, really?
Yeah. Spaziani cut that the week before they annexed it in.
That's,
So now that's why we have a,
Yeah, so maybe they should put fir trees in there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, community gardens, real quick.
Well, anyway, I thought you were gonna project these lovely pictures of mine,
We
but
can do that.
everybody has
Do you want-
pictures in your packet.
We've got 'em.
Yeah, everybody has
I
that.
just took pictures of some samples of, it's the square, like 4x4s that hold the, the frames together. And, some are out there are worse than others, and I think, the people, the people that repainted the numbers on them were doing kind of more of I ran into them and they said also that a lot of these things were rotting, and then I haven't seen them again, so I don't know if they had given the list to Sarah or anything like that, but they were gonna talk about that some more, so.
Are those pressure treated? They don't look like
They don't
that.
look like it, do they?
No, I
No.
don't think they were,
So
because
if
you
we're
don't
gonna put
want
new ones
pressure
in,
treated stuff right next
They
to
don't,
your
yeah,
vegetables.
they
Right.
mostly want pressure treated.
We don't want pressure treated next to your vegetables.
Well, I think you would want to put like a metal stake or some sort of. So when I've done rod systems like this with a community garden, you do it with like a metal rod that goes down like 4 feet. It's more expensive, but then the metal rod takes like 15 years to rot. Or,
Oh,
Right, but
and
what do
then-
you affix the wood?
The metal rod has, so the metal rod's a piece of steel, and then it has holes in it that you nail through the metal rod into the wood.
Like a fence.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
That's what I've
Uh-huh.
done when I've done these like in Lapine growing up and stuff. And then, yeah, you do have to replace them like every 20 years, but
well,
they
how
don't start
deep
to.
does it go down, the rod?
I mean, you can get them 2 feet deep or 4 feet or
Yeah.
however. I don't know. It's just an option. I know it would be more expensive, so.
Hmm.
Another thing is just using some metal strapping around the corners, but replace, and of course we've got, I was telling you, we have a bunch of old cedar rails at Johnsford that we could donate
Yeah.
to the cause.
Are
The
they-
ones, we'll get the best ones that
Yeah.
aren't too bad and then make those available, but, people would have to kind of dig it out and, but there's also the opportunity, maybe the Ant Farm would be willing to kind of, work
Oh,
with
that.
that. They're the ones that did them originally, built them and filled them up, yeah. And so they might, if we kind of gave them some materials, throw those at them, they'd be willing to, I can talk to Nupa about that.
What are
Yeah,
their
I think that'd be
dimensions,
great.
though?
What's that?
What are the dimensions of
Dimensions
these?
of what?
The railing?
The rails, they're like 8-footers, I think.
by.
Up by, like 4x4? or-
Oh, yeah, they're 4x, yeah, 4x.
Oh, so they might.
But they're
be
cedar.
The square things.
Yeah,
but
for the
they-
corners and
But
stuff.
the running boards too
The sideboards,
yeah.
are the
some-
sideboards kind of rotted out too?
Well, I'm sure
Yeah.
that some of them are. They're not bad.
It's the posts themselves.
The- yeah, the corner posts.
Right.
Back in, I'm
Yeah.
actually here for that part of it.
Okay.
That matter.
Yeah.
My board and my one that I had to give up, is like slanted this way because it's away from, the post itself
Yeah,
has
yeah.
split in half,
Yeah.
or
Right.
more actually.
Yeah,
And it doesn't even hold the side post.
Okay,
right.
all right.
And so the whole bed leads out the side and stuff.
So we can ask Joe, if he can get some materials, I'll help, and then we can give, some metal strapping and replacement posts,
Hmm.
just to get us through the year, and then
Yeah.
for next year, what we might want to do is look at, some of these have to be reconstructed,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
kind of come up with a design that maybe has something more like what Kelly's talking about.
I mean, it's just one idea,
Yeah,
but I have
Yeah.
done that and they do last a long
yeah,
time.
right.
You can do like even, I've done it with my dad where, cause he's a contractor, you can do like little, like patios if you wanna form them up with those, and instead of doing like retaining wall blocks, have like a pressure treated wood, and then do it with these posts, and it'll probably last 15 years or so.
Mhm.
So I'm assuming you could get it to last a long time
Yeah.
with, not the pressure treated, but with the steel
Right.
rod.
Huh.
And you can get them at like Home Depot or Lowe's or.
Hmm.
I just went with cedar should make a big difference in how long
Could.
it'll be there as
Yeah.
opposed to just these little Doug fir things.
Right. Also, the pathways, was it you who were talking about how there's so many weeds sort of in the pathways and everything, and I run around out there weeding things, but people aren't very diligent about it, and the little gravelly stuff that forms the pathways all around, gets dirt in it all the time, so it becomes a better growing medium and less of a
Mm.
pathway
Yeah.
as the years go by.
And then the weeds grow.
Then the
yeah.
weeds love it, yeah. Anyway, but,
And 2 years ago, they were wonderful,
Yeah, but the dirt kind of,
but,
yeah.
but when people don't weed them, it really, and there's so much seeding coming from
yeah.
the things that are blowing around, that are
Sure.
not inside too.
Well, then people weed their gardens, pull the weeds out,
And they're,
set them down,
and
and
that's
then,
exactly what
Yeah.
they're doing. I didn't pick up so many of those piles, it's not
yeah.
fair.
Hmm.
They just put them on the side, right?
Yeah. We used to, back in Ashland, we required, everybody that had a garden plot in one of our community gardens, we had maybe 4 or 5 of them spread throughout the community. We required them to do so many volunteer hours. And that.
I've heard of that too. They
Yeah,
had that
and
in
that
Eugene.
included, weeding the common areas, the walkways and things, or re-graveling those areas. We'd go out, we'd dump a load of gravel, and the gardeners were responsible for spreading it amongst the different things. And that resolves a lot of the issue for the maintenance guys
That's a good
Mhm.
point.
and
How did
women,
you-
and it
Put down
just,
some filter cloth and dump some
yeah,
gravel
and it
out there.
just,
Yeah.
takes care of it. And,
Yeah.
the same can be said for the corner posts, if you get the,
Mhm.
I don't imagine those are penetrating into the ground very far,
No.
if at all. In fact, I would speculate that it's probably just a frame, and that post is just there to hold the corners in place, right?
Yeah.
Well, maybe we could just get a stack of, what are they, 8-inch, off the ground?
I think so.
Yeah. Well, 4 by,
Probably 12-inch.
a little 4x4
Yeah.
cut of the cedar posts.
Yeah, just, get the best
Scavenge.
of those and take them over there. and
Take them
people
out
can
over there, and people
yeah.
can
Use them.
switch them out.
Good,
It's
Okay.
not a
It's
difficult
easy to
thing.
switch them out though when they're full of dirt.
right, yeah.
No,
I
and,
was,
but there's ways of doing it. There's people that can help, and again, it's kind of that community garden community, people.
But I think if they would enforce what they have in there, what you sign up, when you sign up, there's things saying what you're supposed to be doing, and they're not being followed. And I think Sarah needs to go, I don't know if she goes up there a lot, but if she went up there and saw that those people that, they're supposed to have already cleaned out at the end of the year, and there's, the last 15 that are still there, nobody wants to even plant in those because they have to dig so much out of the garbage out of them, type thing. But if they reinforce those, you know, could somehow, I know it's hard to enforce that kind of stuff out, but,
Well, you know, I mean, if you went out twice a year and did an inspection, just, you know, for the people that failed every time or something,
Well,
then next year
and
comes
that's-
around and it's like, sorry, you
or,
know.
you know,
you know.
I mean, I'm willing to tell
Yeah.
her, this one's not cleaned out, this one's not
Well,
cleaned out, you
it
know,
gets-
that kind of stuff,
yeah.
and she can call them, but.
It gets, you know,
I know it
yeah.
gets tricky, and I
Yeah.
volunteered to
yeah,
clean them out,
yeah.
but they are paid for, so you can't, type thing.
Yeah,
Well-
but I think you're right. I think a lot of it is just holding people accountable for what
Right.
they signed to.
And
Yeah.
by her list that she sent out, it's
Mhm.
really quite clear.
Yeah.
And you know, they did that, what Dawn mentioned in Eugene at this one that we did for a while, where everybody has to pick up the slack. And if, I think you kind of, honestly, the people that are slackers and not doing their work get kind of pushed out of there.
Yeah.
Because everybody else is like, after a while, people will approach them and be like,
Pressure, right?
Hey, it's your
Yeah.
turn.
Yeah.
yeah, it's your turn, buddy, pick up a shovel
Put
and.
Right.
up, put up a shovel.
Yeah, exactly. So I think you do solve some of those issues
Yeah.
just like
Well,
that.
and honestly, a lot of people enjoy it.
Yeah, no, exactly,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So I just, it was just a solution that we found that worked really well
Yeah.
for us.
So
But did
just
you have
to
a staff
clarify,
person?
did they pay for the plus and then they had to do
Yes.
volunteer hours
Yeah.
as well?
Yeah, I don't recall how much we charged. It was a minimal amount. It wasn't a lot of money, and you know, for that amount of money, you got your 8x12 or you know whatever it was, and we went through. We changed our standards. So when we built them, we lined them with the, you know, the hardware cloth underneath it, you know, to protect from gophers and things. And then we also put hose bibs at each garden box, so you know you weren't dragging hoses all up and down. But we, you know, we charged for all that stuff, and then we required so many hours of service, and we tracked it. You know, people would go out and do it. They'd let us know, and we'd check it off. We would have cleanup days. We'd take attendance. And,
But you had a staff person then that was
We did.
taking care of that. We don't really.
well, we
Sarah doesn't really
had a
have
staff
time
person, but we
to
also
do
had
that.
a captain, if you will,
Yeah.
that you know was responsible for each garden, and so.
Yeah.
They'd be the ones that would, you know, kind of remind people, hey,
Right.
you're getting, you know,
But it would take some
That
staff.
might be an
time.
approach.
I don't think Sarah
Kind
has
of
time.
A little
have
mature.
a captain,
Self-policing.
yeah, yeah.
Well.
Name somebody
Yeah,
police
that
captain.
sounds
I like the,
good.
I like the captain, give him a badge and a hat.
Have you roamed around and looked at
I
it?
need no sticky
have I walked around?
badge.
Yeah, I walked around the other day and looked at it.
Yeah, I mean, it's
All right.
really, I mean, I go out there and weed all
Yeah,
the time.
exactly, the golden shovel.
Well, we got some good ideas to
I
Yeah,
kind
have
of,
the
that's
lines
good.
out there of weed killer stuff of the,
What?
what was it?
Oh, don't
It
say
was
that.
no,
You're just gonna
it's
turn it
vinegar,
Say that.
salt,
Oh.
and dish soap.
But you know, there's also a guy that torches the weeds.
Yeah, it's common.
Well,
I know, I didn't know that, but I.
Oh, they torch them.
Right.
Yeah.
They go out and
torch
burn
the
'em off.
weeds.
somebody does do that.
Yeah, somebody does do
as long as they don't
that.
set the boxes on fire.
Yeah, that's
Or themselves.
Notre Dame.
Yeah.
All right, is there any other items? Can we adjourn? All right, so our next meeting is the second Tuesday, what's that, May 10th?
Second Wednesday.
Wednesday, yep.
Yeah, you're moving your meeting
May
dates. to the
Yeah.
2nd.
8th, May 8th,
May 8th, is
Yeah.
that the date?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay, does that work for everybody?
yeah.
And that's when we're gonna have, is, so just really quick, who's gonna be at the meetings?
We're gonna work that out still.
Yes, we're having meet.
Okay.
We're meeting with Jordan.
Okay, very good. All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you, guys.
I don't know an answer for you yet, but we'll figure it out. Someday we'll be here.
Spreadsheet.
No, I have one, that was a spare one. You want one? Want to recycle?
I think I did most of the minutes already.
Good.
Oh, I'd like to know more about how they do.
All right, well, I'll go home and kind of mess around with that. RFP.
Well, it's not until Friday
Stuff.
too, that's fine.
Well, I just wanna get it off. I got the tree committee and, yeah,
Is that next week?
it is, and I'm gonna
No,
miss
we
the
had,
budget.
and when I first got to
budget
that one, we
meeting,
just
I
had
might
one
be able to
great
call
big
in.
one that had maybe, I don't know, maybe 100 plots in it. And, you
Did you go to
know,
Europe?
there's never enough, there's
Did
always
you
a
go to
waiting
Notre
list for
Dame?
people to get in there. And so the people would come and, hey, won't you guys in the commission
London.
Oh, I said, no, we're not adding to it, we're not adding to it, you know. and
My favorite.
Finally, they
That's my
kind of
favorite
took
city
over
in
the
there.
policy and said, you know, rather than building one here in the middle of town, let's take a look at the neighborhood parks and see if we can put a few around town. And we ended up with, maybe an average size would be 15, plots. And we had them in 5 different parks, maybe. We kept the big one intact. Oh yeah, we had a deer problem like crazy. So, we had a, no,